So welcome everybody, and thank you for joining us for our Women in Alumni panel today. Before we get started with the panel, I'm going to share a few quick housekeeping items. So this time you should be able to hear my voice. If you could hear my voice, would you please raise your hand? Great, looks like everyone can hear me. If you can't hear my voice, please use the dial-in option for Zoom. This is meant to be an interactive session, and we will have time for Q&A at the end, so please feel free to use the Q&A icon at the bottom of your screen. We'll also be recording this session so that you can access it in the future. So again, welcome everyone to this webinar hosted by the UW-Madison MBA program. In honor of Women's History Month, we have the privilege of hearing from a panel of female alumni who have successfully navigated the challenges and triumphs of corporate culture after pursuing their MBA at UW-Madison. We're honored to have them here today to share their professional experiences throughout their MBA and professional career. I'm Jennifer Sarnowski, and I'm going to be the moderator for today's discussion. The University of Wisconsin-Madison is continuously working on improving its longstanding commitment to fostering a diverse and inclusive community, and connecting with our female alumni is one way that it helps our MBA stay accountable. I do have some questions for our panelists, and then we'll reserve time for you to ask questions via the Q&A icon. And you're welcome to ask those as we go along. Today, we're going to be hearing from 4 panelists. Janae Hull, she was full-time MBA class of 2013. Swarupa, I'm not going to be able to pronounce your last name. I'm going to let you do that in a second. She was also full-time MBA class of 2023. Erin Ralph was the professional MBA class of 23, and Mary Roberts, who is full-time MBA class of 2020. So I'm now going to turn off this PowerPoint so that they can all introduce themselves. Swarupa, I'm going to let you go first since I could not pronounce, and I'm not going to try because I'll probably butcher it, your last name.
No problem at all. I know it's not a very easy one, and it's a lengthy one as well. Hello, everyone. This is Swarupa Mallikarjuna, and I just graduated from University of Wisconsin-Madison with a specialization in technology strategy and product management in 2023. I'm currently working in Adobe as a product manager. I work in the assets and collaboration area, so basically helping people collaborate and create with live edit experiences. And previous to doing my MBA, I had experience as a software engineer and a technical lead. I was working with a bunch of engineers, getting things built. But I felt like I was in a phase where I was just doing implementation, and I did not know what I was doing, why I was doing. So that's why I decided to kind of get like a holistic understanding of business. That's why I came in. I think Wisconsin was a really good fit for me. So I chose a TSPM specialization, and it helped me, gain those business acumen. And here I am at Adobe.
Awesome. Thank you. Janae, do you want to go next?
Sure. I'm Janae Hull. I also just graduated in 2023 with my MBA in real estate. So I went into the real estate program looking to pivot from residential brokerage, which I was doing for 4 years before pivoting into real estate development. So I now work for Penrose as an affordable housing developer specializing in MyTech. And so we build buildings and build affordable housing.
Thank you. Erin?
Hi, this is Erin Ralph. I am a engineering manager of product development, specifically the backhoe loader and landscape loaders, which is part of the construction and forestry division for John Deere. I'm based out of Dubuque, Iowa. I've been at John Deere for about 20 years, and my road to MBA may look a little different. I chose to do the hybrid program, and I have an undergraduate degree in mechanical engineering, and really wanted to have, grow more business acumen, and chose the hybrid, and it was a great program for me to balance the work while I was doing full-time still, and also pursuing that higher education.
And Mary.
Thank you. Yeah, so my name's Mary. I graduated in May 2020 from the full-time MBA program. My specialization was in corporate finance and investment banking. I actually came to UW as a career changer. Prior to joining the MBA program, I was a professional performing musician. So I had a big career shift at that time. And my current role, I'm at AT&T in Dallas, Texas. I'm in the corporate development group doing mergers and acquisitions.
Awesome. Thank you. So you may have noticed that all four of these women are in fields that are male dominated. And so we're really going to focus on what it is like to be a woman in these fields, women in corporate culture, and ultimately women are still the minority in MBA programs. So all of you had to return to school, whether part-time, full-time, you may or may not have had to quit your jobs. But when you were thinking about returning to school, what did you take into consideration? And then what barriers did you face while you were thinking about that? Mary, since you went last, we'll go backwards. Go ahead.
Fantastic. Let me make sure I get all the points of the question here. So, when thinking about returning to school, I had a lot of things that I was taking into consideration, but I'd say the three biggest ones for me were the specialization approach, where I knew that I wanted to go into finance, and I really liked the specialization model at UW-Madison, and so I was really attracted to the corporate finance and investment banking group. The second piece was that I knew that I wanted to go full-time in person. And we were living in Madison at the time. And so when I applied to the program and was accepted, I knew that that was sort of the direction I wanted to go. And then thirdly, I think for me, it was the value piece. And that was a big piece for me. At the time I was married, had two little kids, and it's something we needed to take into account for that stage of our lives. So those were sort of the three big things, which brings me to the barriers. As I just mentioned, when I joined the MBA, I had two small kids. I think that was the biggest challenge as I made this transition. At the time, my son was 4 years old. My daughter was 4 months old. So we definitely had our hands full. But the thing I will say is that the university broadly has a lot of support, things in place for parents. I felt that it ended up not being as much of a barrier as I initially thought. So if there happen to be any women out there that are in those shoes with children, I highly recommend UW for all the resources they offer.
Awesome. Thank you, Mary. Erin, you may have faced some of the similar barriers or potentially even more, given that you went part-time and made that decision instead of being able to leave your job, go back full-time. You're a little bit farther into your career when you entered the program. So how about you?
I think when I was thinking about it, I spent probably about 4 years thinking about what program, what was the right fit for me. I wanted something in person. I didn't want to be always at, I'll call it night school, every evening or a couple times a week, just given our lifestyle. I'm also married with essentially 3 children that were in late elementary, early middle school at the time when I entered the program. And so trying to find for me what was that right strike of working full time while wanting to pursue higher education. And it took me a while to find the right program. I was part of the first cohort that graduated with the professional MBA program. And as I evaluated different universities in the area, given what's called the constraint of in-person requirement, that limited my options as well. And then I also looked at where was I going to get more diversity of thought. So there was a lot of John Deere has a great sponsorship program. There's lots of us that pursue higher education, but at some of those universities, it feels like the cohorts are maybe 50% John Deere or even 25% John Deere. And for me, 20 years into the industry, I wanted diversity of thought. Like I know who to contact within my own company to help grow, but I wanted that diversity. And for me as an engineer and knowing where my path was in product engineering and product development, was then trying to choose between MBA and also like the Masters of Engineering programs that exist more on the business side. And again, for me, with 20 years in, maybe being very more narrow in my career choices so far, was the MBA gave me that exposure outside of, I think, some of the other programs that focus on more engineering management wise. And then the networking piece was really important to me to grow the network. I would think on the barrier side, I think for me, it was having the family support, inspiring my own children that you can pursue higher education, but also that the barriers that I faced were more internal to people telling me when I should have gone back to school. So because I was middle-aged and had, middle-aged children, that people told me, oh, you should have done it when you were younger. You should have done it, before you got married, before you had children. And for me, it was the sweet time of my career to do it. And so for me, I would inspire others to, really evaluate what you need, and just try to put those naysayers aside, and continue to pursue that. And my corporate culture is such that I had support work-wise to pursue this education, even with 20 years of experience, and a lot of recognition to that. So for me, that's really critical of like the barrier that I had to overcome with kind of just this other thoughts that people had of when I should have, would have, could have.
Thank you, Erin. And we're definitely going to come back to the idea of like imposter syndrome and all of the feelings that we as women probably have as we enter a lot of these fields. But Janae, I'll let you go first.
Yeah, so for me, I also really wanted to focus in on the specialization piece of it. The University of Wisconsin-Madison has a great real estate program. So I really wanted to specialize MBA in real estate. So that really attracted me to the school. I also felt very comfortable when I was talking with my center director. He made me feel really great about the program, about the support. I talked a lot with him about financial aid because that's always a consideration. And he gave me a bunch of resources of financial aid to look into and to consider as well, which really helped my decision to be able to take the jump and go back, because it is a financial consideration as well. And also the alumni network. Real estate is a relationship business, and I wanted to give myself every advantage as possible. And so it's great to know that the real estate network will pick up the phone if I'm calling a Badger. So that's great as well. I think a lot of my barriers to my MBA more came internally. Going into real estate, it's a lot of jargon, it's a lot of finance. And so I started kind of experiencing that more as I got into the MBA program and feeling that kind of imposter syndrome and that negative self-doubt. But I don't want to spoil Jennifer's answers here at the beginning. So we'll talk a little bit about how I got over that and kind of how we navigate that in the day-to-day post MBA as well. But yeah.
Awesome. And Swarupa.
Yeah, so when I was considering my MBA, I was really looking to learn from the classroom experiences. So I knew I wanted to do like an in-person experience. So I want to do a full time because I was moving countries as well. I did my undergrad, I was working in India and I wanted to, move here. And I think, coming in from an international student, I think one of the barriers was, hey, I'm making this big switch, leaving my work with a comfortable life behind, going to a different world. I don't know how it's going to look like, but I feel like, when I came into Madison, I was like, I felt really welcomed. I know kudos to all my classmates and friends, who really made that, possible for me and made a comfortable situation. And I think some of you also was mentioning about the uh, the financial aid as well. I think Jenny, you were mentioning, so I think that was also a big consideration for me. So I think Madison, like WSB. I think I've spoken to some people from different schools as well. I think the financial aid and I think the TA position options that the school provides, I think, is such a good option for people who also want to make some money while they're also studying. I think that's like super good. And I think I was TAing for business analytics, I think, which was also like a good learning for me. I think that was great. And I think most of you also mentioned one of the really important things which drew me towards WSB was really the specialization. I knew I wanted to be in product management in the tech sector. And I think TSPM, as it says, technology strategy and product management, is exactly what I was looking for. And the courses were really like tailored towards it. And you have a bunch of people who are really like, focused in that area. So kind of like talking to them and working with them. I think it was just like a really good experience for me. Yeah, I think all in all, it's been such a rewarding experience, doing my MBA and coming into this tech world, which is like still a very male dominant place, but really enjoying it.
Awesome. Thank you. All right. Well, multiple people have mentioned imposter syndrome. So we all kind of feel it. I can say I do, even though I may not be in the most male dominated industry. You may feel it at your job. You may feel it during the application process while you're studying for GMAT or applying, you're going through the interview. Sometimes it even happens in the program. Like I said, MBAs are still male heavy. So you've all mentioned that you felt it, but what helped you get through that, realize that you do belong here, you do belong in your job? Janae, you can go first this time.
Okay, so what helped me in the MBA was honestly trauma bonding with my classmates, knowing that they were struggling too. The coursework is rigorous, and it's not, we're not gonna lie, we're not the best in the country when the coursework is easy, right? So it was rigorous, but knowing that kind of everybody else, people that were also going through it, were going through it together. And so that kind of helped my imposter syndrome of like, no, it's not just you, it's the coursework, it's heavy, you're doing it together and you're kind of in it together. So that helped. And kind of having those conversations with people and being very open and being very honest and getting an outside perspective. All of imposter syndrome is your intrusive thoughts. And if you don't address them and present them with opposing evidence, they're going to take over. And so you have to really be honest with yourself and honest with your mentors and your friends and say, this is what I'm feeling. And then let them, gas you up, for lack of a better term, to kind of help combat those negative thoughts.
I'm going to let anyone add that would like to add instead of calling on each of you.
Yeah, I'll jump in there because Janae, I think something you said really resonated with me. I too had a colleague while I was at MBA program. I really looked up to her. She was in my class, and she really had the confidence, the poise, all the things I was working to develop because I had imposter syndrome very strongly when I was in my MBA program. So I think having that close person to chat with, to look up to emulate or imitate, really helps a lot. So I just wanted to kind of piggyback off of that. But I guess to go even further, and I'll jump off of something Erin said earlier as well. For me, again, I was a career changer when I went into the MBA program. And for me, it was the knowledge base. I came into the program knowing absolutely nothing about business, absolutely nothing about finance. I was brand new. So everything was new, everything was hard. The language and the terminology and the jargon, a lot of it would just go straight over my head. And I was quaking in my boots a lot, especially the first year. But I think it's just how to get over that. It's just the iterations, just keeping at it, making sure, studying hard, making sure you really have a command of the material so that eventually, even if you don't have the jargon down pat, you can come to meetings, you can contribute. And sometimes it's even an asset if you're not speaking in the lingo, as it were, if you're speaking in just, normal language. So I'll just add that as sort of one of the ways I've gotten over imposter syndrome.
I think too, for me, it's like seeing the successes, right, as you go through coursework or whether it be feedback from a professor, and instilling that confidence. And most people probably don't realize I have imposter syndrome, and I'm a little bit of fake it till you make it attitude too, that I just try to have that presence. And then internally is the struggle, right? And much like Janae, right, having those cheerleaders and the advocates, right, encouraging me, like when something didn't go right, like, and using it as the learning opportunity to nail it the next time, then, right, and take it and learn from it and grow from it. But really, I even have inspirational posters in my office, right, as like, you're enough. Sometimes, like, I need to hear that because my internal self says, I'm not enough. I am enough, and each of us are enough. And so for others, you are enough, and just repeating that to like make that transition your internal thoughts to more of a positive light.
Yeah, I just want to emphasize on the self-love. I think that is everything. There are some days where you're, doing all this coursework, you have these interviews coming up, you're doing everything together, and you need to give the love for yourself, and it's really, really important. I think, which I just want to add to a few others, like we're also saying where, your friends are your like really like the support system. And I think what really helps also is the diverse background people come from in an MBA setting. So you always have an expert in finance, like expert in someone like our language, which when we were doing all these like statistics and all of these regression models. And there's some experts in every area. So you could just reach out to them. And like I think that was just so surprised how people are so nice to kind of like saying, hey, come sit with me. I'll let you, kind of help you like get through this problem. So I think that really helped. And I just want to, remember one of the Weichel series. I think it was, I don't want to quote the person wrong, but they spoke about the vulnerability. So how we think as one of the qualities of being a leader is being vulnerable. I think that still resonates with me every single day. I think sometimes it's okay to say, hey, I don't know, or, or like I'm just like really new to this place, so I'm just navigating the things. And I think that actually helps people around you to help themselves. So I think that's something which I'm really like practicing even now as well. So when I don't know things, when I'm in a group with a bunch of people who are really experts, I say, hey, I don't know, you guys are the experts, like let me know if I'm making the right decision. And that's really helped me in my making decisions in my life and in my career as well. So yeah, just leave it at that.
Thank you. I really do like the note about vulnerability, and I think can be hard, especially when you may be one of only a few females in the room. So all the industries that you work in, real estate, engineering, tech, finance, they are still all heavily male dominated. You look at our program, they're still heavily male dominated specializations. So knowing that you may be in the room, you may be the only woman, maybe one of two or three. How do you make sure that your voice is heard in the workplace? How do you make sure it's respected? And did the MBA program help prepare you for that? Whoever wants to start can go.
Okay, I can jump in. I think most of the times when I'm in, that kind of situation where I'm the only woman, I think that's happened way more times than I would like it. But I think how I really stand up for myself is having all the information ready. So when I'm making a point, I always have like qualitative and quantitative data saying, hey, this is why I think this is the right decision to do. This is why this is the right thing to go ahead with. And really stating what the problem is and how we are able to solve it and how my proposal I'm proposing is going to solve the problem. I think that's really like helped me put my voice together and say, hey, this is really the right thing to do. And how I think MBA is definitely helped me so much. I think I can just take an example of the case studies that we have done or just case competitions. I think they all follow the same format where you define the problem, you give it with data, you make your proposition in proposals, and you kind of say, hey, this is the plan for next 5 years, so like the DTM market strategy. So I think those are some things that I really apply every day in my career. So that's what really has helped me make my voice heard.
I love that about using the both quantitative and qualitative information. I think oftentimes maybe I am often the only woman on my team, direct staff, extended staff. So I am the only woman in the room quite often in this new role that I have. And I leverage others as well. So not only is it my voice, but it's a little bit of knowing who are my advocates in the room and who's going to provide the controversy to be able to have that pre-meeting before going into an official meeting to gain that feedback, right? What am I missing? And I think one of the ways the MBA helped me is to give me some more of that diversity, right? What are people thinking from marketing? What are people thinking from the analytics portion? What are people thinking from finance, right? And giving that broad spectrum background versus just my engineering perspective. And so I have leveraged that train of thought to listen more and to gain that feedback even prior to the meetings and going in and presenting, so it's easier to get alignment.
Yeah, I think a lot of what you both said resonate with me and are true for me as well. If I'm honest, this is something that I still struggle with, and something that's sort of an ongoing learning opportunity for me. Definitely male-dominated work team that I'm on now. That's the background I came from. When I was at the MBA, same thing. But I'd say that, I guess similar to Erin, I look for those advocates, I look for those allies to make sure I'm having conversations with folks who are aware of that and are looking out for you. And also, I think, it's similar to what Swarupa said earlier, being prepared, showing up, knowing your stuff back and front, that builds my confidence and also gives me the confidence to speak up. I do make sure that I am present, I'm listening, I'm asking questions. These are all ways that I am currently using to develop this skill, which I said that I still struggle with. As far as the MBA, I think that the MBA did a great job with this, primarily because the time I was there, a few years ago, but I'm sure it's still true today. These conversations were happening during the MBA, in the classes, in the seminars, in the Weichel series. So just having that awareness and having it spoken to is a huge piece, just to make sure that all parties are aware of this thing. So yeah, I'll leave it there.
Yeah, I think I'm very similar, and I think I'm lucky enough to be in an office that is 50% women, 50% male. And I truly, yes, lots of claps because it's really not common. But I think that they have been great in helping me be able to articulate things. And, if my boss or my boss's boss is like, oh, like, Janae, can you start planning this party for us? They're very quick to say, is that in her job role as an associate, or are you doing that because she's the female? And so I have a lot of really good advocates here, and I feel like they're great in helping to make sure that we're maintaining my growth as a person and helping to make sure that I have a seat at the table and I understand everything as well. So I think that that's really important. And I think that overall in the industry, that there's so much value to be had and to be added, because I think in real estate specifically, there's so much groupthink. And I think that that's where diversity comes in, whether it's perspective, whether it's a humanitarian approach to housing, whether it be, just it's something as simple as last, in the MBA, we were talking about investing in a certain region. And you're like, well, if you think about where people actually want to live or why people are moving there and think about the human component, and then all the guys were like, but the IRRs, but the returns. And you're like, okay, but think about the human component of real estate. And it actually ended up really helping our investment strategy. And so I think just knowing that what you have to bring to the table is important and it is valuable, especially if you're bringing diversity, and to be able to back it up with facts and data. And sometimes you're not going to be able to when, certain regions are given a good IRR, but you're like, think about the people. You might have to fight a little bit for that one. But I think just knowing and having confidence in the value that you're bringing. So.
Awesome. Thank you all. I do want to emphasize that I think all of you talked about your advocates, your network, your mentors. The goal at Wisconsin, and Mary said this, like, we are still working to get to parity, right? Like, we are working to get to gender parity every day. We partner with Forte for that reason. We partner with Consortium to increase underrepresented minorities in the class. We partner with Ramba to increase LGBTQ awareness. Like, that is a goal of the Wisconsin MBA, starting with admissions all the way through student services, career, administration, our dean, everything. So things like the Weichels, things like our Inclusive Leadership Committee, all of our student organizations, they are here to help support that mission. So hopefully that can carry on as you graduate and you have your classmates as friends and allies and sounding boards. But I really hope that kind of comes through our program. So, well, last official question that I have before we open it up for the audience, what advice would you have for current females who are considering or are even currently enrolled in the Wisconsin MBA program? Whoever wants to go. I don't want to feel like a teacher.
Rupa, you want to go or you want me to go?
Go ahead.
Okay. I think one of the funniest, best piece of advice that I got throughout the program. It's kind of like Aaron's "You Are Enough" sticker. Mine is a sticker that says "Walk through life with the confidence of a mediocre man," because a mediocre man will have more confidence and audacity than even the most qualified woman. And so if you walk through life with the confidence of a mediocre male, you'd be surprised what doors open for you.
I've never heard that, but that is awesome.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I love that. I don't know if I can follow that one up.
Yeah.
There's stickers on Etsy if anyone needs it. So
I think for me, it's knowing that there are resources to leverage, right? And maybe one of my fears of going in was I had a very maybe smaller undergraduate degree college, right? And going into UW-Madison was maybe a little bit overwhelming, and I kind of questioned, right, am I going to get the attention and the support needed more from the faculty and staff? And for me, I was like pleasantly surprised at even our graduation ceremony and reception, right? We had faculty come in and support us in that. And so to me, like I know I could still reach out to any of the faculty of a business problem I'm having and get that support. And so I think for entering students or current students is to leverage that to help you in your journey.
It's a great one too. And I would follow up with network. I think that was one of the best things I did during the MBA in terms of just the more you get out there and talk to folks, the more experiences you learn about. We've talked a lot about diversity, different people learning from their experiences, building your network so you have those people to ask your questions to fall back on. And it's a skill I developed during my MBA. I still do it today. I try to reach out to people, both new and old, on a regular basis. And it's such a valuable skill, and you never know where it's going to lead. So network.
Yeah, I think I was going to say very similar something to Mary. I think there's always something to learn from everybody. Sometimes, even if they are not from the same stream that you're looking into going forward, or if they're not from the same background you come from, there is always something to learn from, everybody. So just keep an open mind, and you never know what you and come up with. Having a conversation with someone, they could help you maybe with like just life lessons, or give you some interview skills, like interview tips, or just giving some advice as well. So yeah, just network. It's super important. And I think another thing I also want to kind of talk about is have a mentor. I like to have like a women mentor who actually I look up to. And if someone who is in the position that I see myself in at maybe one day, shout out to my mentor, Megan. She was actually a board member of TSPM. I think she still is. We connected when I was doing my MBA, and she's still my mentor. I still reach out to her and ask help. And I think having someone like that, just giving you that support is like super essential.
Awesome. Well, thank you all. I do want to emphasize that our programs, whether it's professional, full-time, exec, are intentionally small cohorts. We want all of our students to be able to be a close-knit community, and we want to show that through our administration. I think, other than Mary, because I wasn't here when she was here, but Swarupa, Janae, and Aaron, I knew all of you pretty well during the program. I think Aaron actually interviewed you back early on when I was here.
You did.
Yeah. So, I think I may start in the beginning. I think I still knew everyone when they were students here, but we want to make sure that the best experience is possible for everyone in our program, regardless of their gender identity, their, any of their statuses, race, ethnicity, where they came from socioeconomically, any of that. We hope that everyone can be comfortable here, and we're creating that experience that will support you through your career. So I want to see if there's any questions from the audience. We've got 10-ish more minutes. Just give it a minute to see if anyone comes in. If there's anything that anyone wants to add as well that I didn't ask a question on, feel free.
I just wanted to validate the finding a mentor part. Absolutely crucial, critical. I think find a mentor in your industry. I think you find a mentor outside of your industry. I think you find multiple mentors, and don't think it has to live and die with one person. But I also do want to validate that it's not easy to do. You might have to run through a few different mentors. But once you find the right fit, it's pretty great. So.
Well, I don't see any questions coming in. So I do want to thank all 4 of you for coming today. Really appreciate that you came during Women's History Month. I think it is something that we are working really hard to kind of increase our no, I should not say increase, get closer to gender parity in all of our programs, and really increase awareness and connection with our alumni. So thank you all for attending. If there are questions that come up, anyone's welcome to reach out to us. We can always try to connect you with some of our alumni or our current students to help with that. But with that, I will give everyone back their probably afternoons. And again, if anyone needs anything, please reach out to us. Thank you for attending today.
Thank you.
Bye. Thank you.
Good luck, everyone.
Thanks, everybody.